What Remains of Edith Finch is a touching and an emotional tale centered around the Finch family, told through a series of short stories that detail each family's member's demise. In this haunting but beautiful world, we step into the shoes of Edith Finch, the sole survivor of her family's tree line. As we begin the game, we embark on this quest to unravel the mysteries hidden within the walls of her ancestral home. Each room holds a story waiting to be discovered, playing a crucial role in the larger puzzle of the Finch family lineage. Throughout the game, we are transported into the lives of Edith's relatives, experiencing their joys, their sorrows, and the defining moments that shape their destinies, ultimately leading to their deaths. So I don't get a chance to actually play that many indie games, and it's pretty sad because there are a lot of good indie games out there. And the reason I'm making this video is because this game was really short. The platinum this game took about 2 hours long, maybe 2-3 hours. But the impact that it had on just those couple hours was so big that I thought, you know what, this deserves a video just because this game is so good.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that.
So the game starts off as Edith, and the game actually doesn't make that much sense at the start. She explains a little bit about her backstory, a bit of her life, etc. But we don't actually understand all of it. By the end of the game, you will understand all of it, and it'll sort of clip in together. But at the start, you won't. But yeah, we approach the house, and this house is extremely cozy. When you get inside of it, this is just one of those cozy indie games. Like I said, it's amazing. And our goal in this game right now is to fill out this family tree with all the different family members and figure out how they all died. Basically, this is the whole game in a nutshell, is to go through all these different little rooms that there are in this little house and figure out what happened to the different family members. And you'll see right throughout the video, we'll be filling in the family tree one by one. So our very first character we get to play as is Molly. She's a little girl that gets sent to bed with no food, but we wake up really hungry, so we decide to eat everything in our room, things from our toothpaste, things from our pet's food, to these little berries. I think they're called holly berries. But obviously we've eaten so much crap that I think basically we start tripping out. So we actually first become like a cat chasing a little bird, and then we become an owl, diving in and grabbing these little rabbits and choking on them, and which actually relates to a trophy, which you'll see at the end of the video because I didn't get it at the start of the video. After that, we basically get transformed into a shark that rips open the sea turtle, and then we become a monster on this boat. As the monster on the boat, we devour everyone, and then we make it back all the way to Molly's room as the monster under her bed. And of course, as Molly's writing her diary, she believes there's a monster on her bed. She probably goes to sleep, but she doesn't wake up because of all the crap she's eaten. So she's obviously been poisoned, probably by the berries or the hamster food. So Molly was our first family member that we added to our tree, and she's actually got a lot of related trophies to her, but like I said, I didn't follow any trophy guides for this. I just went straight into it blind. So you'll see at the end of the video I actually popped quite a lot of trophies with her, but for our first playthrough I didn't get any of the trophies. So our second member was Calvin. Calvin basically wanted to fly, so he tried to do a rope-a-dope around the tree, and basically he killed himself because he flew off the tree handle. Anyway, I have never in my life had this weird sensation playing a video game until I played this little story bit. I don't get motion sickness here, but I thought I was about to pass out playing this. You'll see in a second what just happened to me. Oh my god, mate. I'm getting really dizzy playing this. What the hell's going on? Holy crap, I'm getting so dizzy. Holy crap. Oh my god. I'm actually getting so dizzy doing this. What the hell is going on? I'm about to pass out. Oh my god, I closed my eyes. Close my eyes. Holy crap, I'm about to pass out. This kid's dead as well, bloody hell. Oh. So after the strangest reaction I've ever had in my entire life playing a video game and almost passing out, we find out that Calvin died, basically flying off his little swing into the ocean. Like, this house is really cozy, and the way it was designed is actually really cool, because like all these little rooms are hidden behind like bookshelves and books and stuff like that. It's really cool to see. So yeah, we make it to our next room, and the story we have here is around Barbara. So Barbara's story is probably one of the best in the game in my opinion, because it's done through this like little comic strip, and it's got the perfect music with it, and the guy who's narrating the entire thing is just done absolutely to perfection.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch.
And during this little comic format, we learn more about Barbara's life and what's happened to her. So a really short recap of Barbara's life is quite simple. She was a child star. She had an absolutely amazing scream. That's what she was famous for.
As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream.
But as she's grown up, that scream's gone away.
Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been.
So during these little comic strips, you actually get to play as the character, and one of the comic strips had this like pool table. So I actually decided just to knock everything off the pool table for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I got the trophy called Clear the Table. So it's pretty cool that just a random trophy just popped out of the blue. Now, her boyfriend Rit wanted to get that scream back, so he tried to scare her during this comic strip. He failed, and then a couple more things happen. So the weirdest thing about this entire thing is, like, as we go through the comic strip, at the end of the comic, some people ring the doorbell. She goes and answers the door, and she's greeted by a bunch of people dressed in Halloween masks. And she dies after this. Now again, this is the weirdest death in the game because no one has a clue how she died.
And she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life.
Now, there's lots of assumptions online, and my assumption is this, that it's just a bunch of hooligans or her fans dressed in masks, and she just gets killed that way. So the cool thing about this story compared to the other stories in the game is that the developers left it up to us to decide how she died. So next up on the list is Walter, and he lives an incredibly lonely life. So after Barbara died, Walter wanted to get away from everything, so he built a bunker underneath the house, and he stayed there unseen for 30 years. Even Edith, who was living at the house at the time, had no idea he was living under the house. So the actual story was told through a letter written by Walter, and the reason he was hiding underneath the house was obviously because of the family curse, and he didn't want that to catch up to him. But after 30 years, the guy's had enough of living by himself, so he decided to get out of the bunker and try and live whatever life he's got left outside in the real world. However, the guy made it probably about 30 seconds as he's walking along the train tracks to get out into the forest. A train comes out of the blue and it obviously hits him and kills him. So we get to the point of the game where we see the graveyard for all the Finches and where they're all buried. And the fact that they built a graveyard behind their house is pretty sad because they believe so much in this curse that they got this graveyard ready to bury all the family members inside of here. So after that depressing sight of the graveyard, we move on to the most simplest story of the game, and that's Sam's. So this is one of the most simplest stories in the game, and this is where Sam and Dawn, who's Edith's mother, go on a camping trip to go hunt deers. And this story here is told through us taking photos of different sections of the camping trip. At one point of the camping trip, we kill a deer, we think it's dead, Sam goes up to check it, and he gets absolutely headbutted off the cliff, and he dies. Now the most disturbing story in the game is Gregory's, and he dies in probably the worst way any parent can ever imagine. So Gregory's just a little kid, and we start the story off in the bathtub, and in this bathtub we actually get to control this rubber frog, and I was just sleeping around all over the gaff, and I actually knocked over all the little letters on the bath wall, and that gave me the trophy Gregory. And then here comes the most disturbing part of the entire story. Obviously, as a kid in the bathtub, you got your mom looking after you. She gets distracted by a phone call. She actually empties the tub before she leaves, but us playing with the rubber frogs and stuff like that, we actually managed to find a way to refill the entire bathtub, and you can guess what happens. So a parent's worst nightmare, not a very nice way to go, but that's the story of Gregory. So next up on the list is Milton, who's the brother of Lewis, and his story's coming up next. But Milton has a really weird but interesting story. His story is told through a flicker book, and in this flicker book, Milton walks through this door and disappears. And obviously this game is not magical, but what this symbolizes is that in real life, that he must have just disappeared somehow. So Giant Sparrow, the people who made this game, actually created another game called Unfinished Swan, which I've never played, but apparently Milton's disappearance or the character has something to do with Unfinished Swan. Now, I don't know too much about this, like I said, but if anyone knows what it has to do and how the connection works, let me know below. But from what we can tell, like I said at the start, is he disappeared and he's presumed dead now, so he's gone forever. So as we're making our way to the top of the house, the next person on the list is Lewis, and he's probably got the most beautiful told story in the game. So the reason this story was so beautiful, because it was the way that it was presented and narrated by the narrator. It just made you want to connect to Lewis a lot more, and you actually feel sorry for him about his story. So like I said before this, when we were talking about Milton, he is the brother of Lewis, and after Milton's disappearance, Lewis started to shut himself down from the world and from everything around him. He actually got very heavily induced in substance abuse, so he's talking to a therapist. So the guy was probably sniffing a lot of white powder, but you can blame him. His brother disappeared, so he was doing something to try and ease the pain. So Lewis then got a job at a fish factory, cutting the heads of different fishes. And obviously with a job like that, it's extremely dull and boring. And what does your mind do when you're dull and bored at work? It starts to wander, your imagination starts to spike, and you start thinking about different things. So as this imaginary tale is being told, we're actually doing Lewis's real life job, which is grabbing these fishes and moving it towards this like cutter thing, which chops off his head. So the imaginary tale, like I said before, is really beautiful. We see Lewis going from a traveler, and he realizes his destiny is to become the king of this far, far away land. So as we're getting told this story and how Lewis goes up in ranks and becomes a king, etc. By the end of the story, we meet our destiny, and we meet the princess of the land, and she's about to place the crown on top of our head so we can become king. So Lewis believes so much in this imagination that he's created, he actually bows down in real life to receive this crown. And you can see what's in front of him in this make-believe world, and you can also see what he's doing for his real life work. So you can imagine what's about to happen to his neck. Lewis was just a young man who was just deeply affected by the deaths of all the different family members in his life, and this curse that was becoming so real to him that he had to escape in this imagination to try and creates a world for him that was actually a happy place rather than this like depressing and dark place. So after Lewis's tragic story, Dawn, who's the mother of Lewis, Milton and Edith, decided she wanted to take Edith away from the house to try and get her away from the curse and the stories of her grandmother Edie that she wanted to tell Edith about. So we find out a little bit about the grandmother here, Edie, who insisted that we couldn't run away from the curse, but we leave her at the door, never to be seen ever again. A few years pass and Edith's mother Dawn died of some sort of terminal illness, so it left Edith as the sole survivor of the Finch family. So the last bit of the game here, the ending scene was amazing. Edith realizes that she's pregnant and she's talking about the curse and saying things like, maybe we believed so much in the family curse we made it real, which is how her grandmother felt the day they left her on that porch. And I also completely agree with this saying. Edith wanted to ensure that her child hears about the fate of the entire family members, so that's why she's been writing everything down in her journal. So then we move on to this little scene here where we have these little heartbeats and we hear Edith giving birth to her son. But of course, if you believe in the curse or not, she dies giving birth to her son Christopher. And then we're left with this last scene of her son looking down on her grave. So look, I mean, this game was so beautiful and that's why I wanted to make this video. And maybe I didn't do an amazing job explaining it, but I think you need to actually play this game for yourself and see how beautiful this game is and how short indie games like this can have a massive impact on yourself. And I mean, it did for me, so hopefully it will do the same thing for you. So the great thing about this game as well is when you play it for the second time, you can actually start linking all the different family members up together and figuring out how they all connect to each other, etc. And I think that's so cool because it gives this game a bigger meaning. It gives it a nicer way. Like, you know, when you go play a game for a second time, you're not just doing it because you have to. You actually go and do it because you're actually learning more about the game, you're learning more about the family, and I think that's really, really cool. So now it's time to clean up the game and get all the remaining trophies. And one of the trophies was watching the end credit scenes, and there's a trophy called Thanks Johan. I have no idea who Johan is. He's a programmer in the game. I have no idea if he passed away or something like that, and that's why he's credited. But after watching the credit scene and all the different programmers in the game who worked on the game, you get the trophy Thanks Johan. We then pop the trophy called Replay a Story, which obviously, as the name says, we replay a story in the game. So one of the rooms that I actually missed in the game, because you can actually miss one of the rooms and one of the stories for the family members, was Gus's one. And in Gus's story, his father was getting remarried and Gus was against the idea and the fact the wedding was taking place on the beach by the Finch house. So we as Gus are flying a kite all over the shore, away from the celebrations, when a storm rolls in and all the chairs, the debris begins to be picked up by Gus's kite, which we are controlling. Then we fly the kite into the tent where the rest of the family is sheltered, and then the wind picks up the tent itself. So all the crap the wind had taken control of hits Gus finally, and he is basically killed by a storm. So after Gus's story finished, we pop the trophy called Everything Ends for finishing every single story in the game for every single family member. We then had to go back to Molly's section and replay that and get to certain bits to pop some trophies. And the first trophy we had to pop was called Great Owl. And for this trophy, all I had to do was do 2 perfect dives with the owl and grab 1 rabbit per dive. I then had to go to the monster section of Molly's part and listen to my uncle drunkenly sing a song about being a sailor, and I got the trophy called Let Him Finish. I then went back to Sam's story and I had to take a picture of a rabbit on a trail to get the trophy called Wildlife Photographer. And let me just tell you one thing, right? Everything was so blurry, and for a guy who has got terrible eyesight, I could not find this rabbit to save my life. I had to actually go look up a guide to figure out where this rabbit was because it took me so long to find it. So thank the Lord I found it after a while.
Come on already.
Then I had to go back to the start of the game where we began, and there's 2 different roads to take to the house. I had to take the second road that I didn't take in the first playthrough to get the trophy all roads in the game.
The woods around the house have always been uncomfortably silent.
So throughout the game, there's this really cool gameplay feature where you can peek through these little peepholes, and I'm talking about the clean type, not the dirty type. And there are a bunch of them scattered throughout the game, and once you look through all of them, you get the trophy called a closer look.
Everyone always told me to stay out of Lewis's room. Except Lewis.
And the last trophy that I left to the end, and I intentionally did this, was to replay Calvin's story and go around that flipping tree and have a seizure. And this was just to pop the trophy, the loop-de-loop. Right, I'm going to close my eyes and not even look at this again because I don't think I can do this. Look, it's happening again, mate. I don't even get motion sickness. What is going on? Close the eyes. Let this guy fly. And it's finished. Thank God. Right, I should get my last trophy now. Hopefully, yep, loop-de-loop for having a seizure, basically. Fair play to them. I don't know what's happened to me in this game, but I'll never, ever do that story ever again. Bloody hell. And here we go. All done. What a game. What a game. So like I said at the start of the video, I really need to get into indie games. I don't know why I left it this long or why I have not been playing them. It's completely my fault. But especially now, after finishing these big grindy games, I really want to play small games like this, like What Remains of Edith Finch. I want to play games like this, and I want them to have an effect like this game did. For a game that's like 2 hours long or 2-3 hours long, and for it to have this sort of effect on you, I think it's unbelievable. A game could be 100+ hours long and can have no effect on you whatsoever. So this is great. I cannot wait to play more games in the future. So if you guys have any suggestions for any indie games, let me know below, because I'm completely new to this genre, like I said, and I really want to get into it. And if I've missed anything in this video and I got something completely wrong, let me know below. I'd love to know. But again, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all.